You went out in them streets, and them streets wasn't hot for you, so now you go back to the old thing. That's what they've done. Instead of looking at Dillon Gabriel and looking at Shedeur Sanders and saying, can one of these young men be our franchise quarterback of the future, knowing that we have 2 first-round picks in 2026? Make sure you know what's in your building before you have to go scout and evaluate those next crop or that next crop of quarterbacks. And so for me, they took the easy way out. But Adam Schefter said it yesterday, right? When we look at the depth chart, who's listed as number 2 is now what's important. Is that Kenny Pickett, and you're going to say, okay, now we're going to play the 2 older guys, or are you going to be getting either Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders ready to play?
Ryan Clark is officially done playing nice, and honestly, can you blame him? The Cleveland Browns just took one of the most hyped college quarterbacks in recent memory, Shedeur Sanders, the son of Coach Prime himself, and shoved him so far down the depth chart that he's basically closer to selling Gatorade on the sidelines than throwing touchdowns. 4th-choice quarterback? Really, Cleveland? That's not just an insult. That's football blasphemy.
So I'm going to make the following statement. If I said Joe Flacco starting at quarterback for the Browns is the correct move, would you say that's right or wrong?
I think that's the wrong move. I think you should have looked at one of these rookies to see if you had your franchise quarterback in the building, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel, who I felt both had good debuts here.
And here comes Ryan Clark, ESPN analyst, former Super Bowl champion, and professional teller of uncomfortable truths, stepping in like the older brother you didn't know you needed. His message was crystal clear. Shedeur, pack your bags, get out of Cleveland, and don't look back. Because if you think about it, this isn't just a normal quarterback competition. This is the Browns being the Browns, turning talent into tragedy faster than you can say Cleveland curse.
What people are willing to give you or spend on you.
Every time.
No matter what we think about Shedeur Sanders' tape, no matter what Shedeur Sanders thinks about his tape or what he's put on film to this point, they let him know tonight.
Let's break this all the way down. Shedeur Sanders came into the NFL with more hype than any rookie not named Caleb Williams. He had the name, the swagger, and a college highlight reel filled with clutch throws, poise under pressure, and that signature primetime confidence. Fans wanted to see him step into the league and shake things up. Instead, the Browns decided, let's make him QB4, right behind a guy whose best stat line is holding a clipboard.
October and November, because Dad, I have a question. Should the work at practice be different than what you normally delegate the practice reps, right? Because a lot of times when you're the 2, you don't get a ton of time with the starting offense or the ones. If you have one of these guys listed as second on the depth chart, are you preparing them in a different way than what you normally would?
Yeah, I would slightly, a little bit, yes. I would slightly, but you also, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, has got to make sure that they're doing everything they can for everybody else to get ready to win the game. This isn't just, hey, we're just focused on the quarterback, so it's a fine balance, but I do think getting those guys reps in preparation for what the plan is, whether they're having decent success or not, should be at the forefront.
This is why Ryan Clark lost it. This isn't about competition, it's about respect. When you draft or sign a player like Shedeur, you don't bury him like some undrafted practice squad guy. You give him a shot. You let him take reps. You don't hide him behind 3 quarterbacks who couldn't outthrow him in a backyard Thanksgiving game.
Well, first off, they just didn't want to make a hard decision, right? Figuring out who's going to be number 2 is going to be a difficult decision. It would have been a much harder decision to figure out which one of those young men would start. And when you look at what the Cleveland Browns are doing, this is why people spin the block in relationships.
But, of course, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns, a franchise that could mess up a free lunch. This is the same team that gave Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed, only to spend half the time figuring out which week he was even healthy enough to play. They've had more quarterbacks since 2000 than some people have had haircuts. And now, when they finally have a chance to groom a star, they say, let's sit him, 4th choice. Brilliant.
I'm not a big proponent of them starting at the beginning of the season. I don't know the rep count in practice. I don't know how many looks they had against the number 1 defense. I know Myles Garrett rushing is completely different than the other guys that are in there. But that's what I said after Shedeur's performance. I said that performance should have bought him more reps of good on good in practice to compete for who was going to be the number 2 guy to eventually be the number 1. Like, that sounds logical to me.
Ryan Clark sees what we all see. This is career sabotage. And Ryan isn't just speaking as a talking head. He's speaking as a guy who's been in NFL locker rooms, who knows the politics, the favoritism, and the subtle ways teams ruin young talent. When he says Shedeur should leave, it's not because he doesn't believe in him. It's because he knows Cleveland is the last place you want your career to start.
You remember, hey, man, I had a great relationship with this person. Then I moved to this person and it wasn't so good. This person's available on the market again. Let's spin the block and try it. Right? And that's what they're doing. They caught fire late in the season 2 years ago with Joe Flacco. You're talking about Kevin Stefanski, a guy who's won the Coach of the Year 2 times. He thinks that he can go out and win games early this season with Joe Flacco. They could be coaching for their jobs. Joe Flacco is what you know. It's the stability that you trust. I think this team will be okay. But I still think this team finds itself in a position where they're going to have to figure out who their franchise quarterback is, whether it's this season or next.
Think about it. How many quarterbacks have we seen come to Cleveland full of potential, only to leave broken, forgotten, and labeled as busts? Johnny Manziel, Brandon Weeden, Colt McCoy, Baker Mayfield. The Browns have a graveyard of QB dreams buried under that stadium. And if Shedeur stays, he risks being the next tombstone.
I do think Cleveland would be smart to build in a period where that backup quarterback as a rookie plays against your starting defense and Flacco doesn't, just because the speed is a different world.
We had periods that was competition periods. Right, you'd be the end of the practice, and you might say, okay, we're going 3rd down here, we're going 2-minute here, we're going red zone here, right? It's unscripted, and both coaches on each side of the ball are calling the plays as the ball moves. Those guys need those sorts of reps against the Myles Garretts and the Denzel Washingtons in case they have to be thrust into the game. Maybe it's my algorithm, but I see Shiloh and Shedeur more than I've ever seen any undrafted guy or 5th-round guy on social media in the history of Instagram, Threads, Twitter, X, whatever it is. Like, those dudes are everywhere.
Now, picture this. Shedeur Sanders walking into a franchise that actually respects his skill set. Imagine him in a system built around his quick release, his pocket presence, and his ability to make plays under pressure. Teams like the Falcons, the Raiders, or even the Steelers would build around him, not bury him. But the Browns? They'd rather ruin him before he even gets a real chance.
Pitted them against each other when they took one guy in the 3rd round and the other in the 5th. And then brought a quarterback kerfuffle to camp and gave 3 guys a chance and 1 guy not a chance. So when the one guy that gave no serious chance to win this job went out there and outplayed everybody but the guy who started the job, it should be on record. That is the whole point. This exercise was, how do you roll these guys out? What chance do you give? 3 guys were given a chance. And before Dylan's hamstring injury, which gave Shedeur the opportunity, and not anything else, that gave him the opportunity to Wally Pip him, which hasn't happened. Before that, they were very seriously doing everything they could to prop Dylan up to see if he could challenge.
I mean, how shocked would you be at this point if Shedeur is not the first quarterback out the gate, if it is in fact Dylan Gabriel? Because you won't be shocked at all, I would imagine.
I would be beyond shocked if Shedeur at any point gets on that field, other than injury.
Ryan Clark isn't just being dramatic. He's being protective because he knows how much hype Shedeur brings with him. He knows how much pressure comes with being Deion Sanders' son. And he knows that if Shedeur fails in Cleveland, the headlines won't blame the franchise. They'll blame Shedeur. They'll say he was overhyped, not ready, another Sanders kid who couldn't make it. And Ryan Clark refuses to let that narrative even begin.
Cleveland, let me be very clear about something. We are not Browns fans. We are Shedeur Sanders fans, which means when Shedeur Sanders leaves, so do we.
Let's be honest. The Browns naming him QB4 isn't just about football, it's about politics. NFL veterans get the nod because of experience. Translation: coaches are scared to upset the locker room, so they let older, less talented guys stay ahead of rookies who are clearly better. But here's the thing. Fans don't buy tickets to watch the third-string guy manage checkdowns. They buy tickets to watch excitement, talent, and the possibility of greatness. Shedeur offers all of that, and Cleveland just tossed it in the trash. Ryan Clark's demand that Shedeur quit isn't about walking away from football. It's about walking away from a franchise that doesn't deserve him. It's about finding a team that will actually invest in him, not use him as a backup to the backups. Because no matter how much potential you have, if you sit on the bench for 3 years, you stop being the future. You become forgotten.
Stop, bro. Stop. Because you're running Shedeur's image into the mud. How the fuck is he silly and goofy? Where the fuck did that come from? Because he smiles? Because he has personality? Like, bro, help me understand. Just help me understand. Like, you're mad at people for being fans and so-called turning him into a celebrity. The boy is Deion Sanders' son. They had a fucking TV show for God. Bro.
And let's face it, Shedeur Sanders isn't built to be forgotten. He's flashy, he's confident, he's primetime bloodline. This is a kid who wore a luxury watch during a college game just to prove a point. You don't bury a player like that at QB4. You unleash him. So when Ryan Clark says Shedeur should leave, he's not wrong. He's giving the best career advice Shedeur could possibly get. Because staying in Cleveland is like signing up for a sinking ship and then being surprised when the water reaches your neck.
And we should let
Be
this
the
show
second quarterback
that this
off.
was nothing to do with Shedeur's play in the slightest bit. This is nothing to do about watching both guys and being like, well, I guess Dylan's really outplayed him. No. This is just everything to do with the Browns and how they initially thought about Gabriel versus Shedeur. And what's unfair about that for Shedeur Sanders is that's not a fair fight.
I get that
It's not a fair
binary
fight.
thinking. Binary thinking is all we do these days, right? Political opposition, everything becomes a two-party issue in sports in every walk of life. It doesn't have to be. I'm going to say it one more time. Shedeur outplayed expectations by a wide mile, by a wide margin, despite not getting the reps in practice that would lead you to believe he's doing that. Conversely, Dylan was given every opportunity that he could be given, especially the second Kenny Pickett went down, and then played fine. If you don't hear the difference between that, or if all you hear is spin, I think you're being spun in a different way.
If Shedeur wants to protect his career, his image, and his future in the NFL, he needs to do one thing: listen to Ryan Clark, pack those bags, and never let the Browns define his story. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that quarterbacks don't get second chances after Cleveland ruins them. Ryan Clark's message was simple. Shedeur Sanders isn't a fourth string anything. He's a star waiting to shine. And if the Browns can't see that, then it's time for Shedeur to give them the one play they'll never recover from: walking away.